In August 2024, I was in Madrid, and I was very inspired by one painting that I saw in the Prado, which is Hieronymus Bosch's Garden of Earthly Delights. When I saw it, I was very struck and inspired to paint a contemporary triptych that expressed all the joys and challenges of modern life, but loosely inspired by the Bosch in terms of ambition, scale, and attention to great detail. In the left section, where in the original you have the Garden of Eden, I have a Garden of Eden too, but a very contemporary one, where the original spark of God's creation creates life through DNA, cell biology, and also evolutionary processes that are his method. And in that Garden of Eden, there are also references, Talmudic references, to how Adam, the first man, was conceived as stretching from one end of the world to the other, and also had two sides to him, both a good and evil inclination. And in the pond at the bottom, you have fantastical life forms evolving, where I've really created creatures that could have existed but perhaps never made it or went extinct. In the central panel, in place of the actual Garden of Earthly Delights, I create a vast panorama of contemporary life, but not just contemporary. In the central section, a kind of primordial swamp is sort of the linchpin of the composition, and out of that there evolve the most fantastical creatures. I've invented literally hundreds or even thousands of animals and beings that never existed or did exist or became extinct. So I have the saber-toothed tiger there, I've got the dodo, I've got dinosaurs, I've got the woolly mammoth, and all kinds of other fantastical creatures. And in the process, I'm inventing new forms that may actually end up being sculptures. Actually, some of the images are sculptures I have already done, which seem to take their place very, very naturally there, because the whole composition feels like a sculpture garden, like etchings and paintings of imaginary sculpture gardens that I've done before in my work. Now, the modern elements in the Garden of Earthly Delights in the original, here I've changed every single detail, and you have hundreds of people working on screens, computers, and mobile phones, emblems of the modern age that we're in, and also alternative realities that are created by technology. But also at the same time, the pleasures of the flesh are enhanced by other pleasures which are very dangerous in modern life, such as addiction. So they're images of syringes and people dancing in a kind of frenzy of addiction, which is one of the characteristics of the contemporary age. And that's why I've called it, somewhat ironically, the Garden of Contemporary Delights. But also, in the original, you have these fantastical structures like buildings, which are kind of prophetic of the future. But here, I've shown what actual architectural triumphs the modern age have created. So, for example, you've got the Burj Khalifa, the Petronas Towers, Sydney Opera House, the Guggenheim Museum, and other extraordinary architectural wonders. If you move to the last panel, which in the original is hell, I've created an image of what is a contemporary hell, the things that create hellish elements in today's world. So you have the threat of nuclear war, global terrorism, memories of the Holocaust, but also all kinds of other creatures damaging one another, human beings damaging one another. There's an image of a dinosaur roaring its fear and its hatred. It's a kind of symbol of hatred which causes hell, hatred of others. And at the bottom, you've got this giant book. The book is representing ideologies that may also create great problems for humanity. Some of the ideologies are the very heart of what then becomes hellish. On the back of the composition, as in the original, there's an image of a glass sphere. In the original, that's the third day of creation. Here, I've created a glass sphere. They're human beings under the water blowing bubbles, bubbles being one of my many motifs that appear again and again, representing different areas of life, but also the impermanence of things that can pop like a bubble. The whole glass sphere is actually cracking as it warms up, a kind of reference to global warming. A very quirky and unique element to this project to do modern versions of the Garden of Earthly Delights is the fact that in my imaginary world of Nerak, the leader of that died whilst I was in Madrid, and I set myself the task of different fictional Nerakian artists creating versions of the Garden of Earthly Delights. So I created two versions. First, the painted one, as you see, with all the colours, which is created with the Nerakian artists Saw and Scala. And then I decided to do a golden version, which is created by Jaco and Antis. Jaco being the Nerakian artist who worked on the many golden drawings I did during COVID and afterwards, and including the Coviad. The golden triptych is much further away from the original. I've really let the imagination run riot here, with gold, black and white paint on the raw, beautiful canvas, the sort of linen canvas, which gives the whole thing a special tone. In my thinking, a kind of new kind of painting, somewhere between painting and drawing and illumination. In the left panel, Adam and Eve are much larger. They're like my sculptures of the visitors reflected in the pond, kind of meditating on the future of humanity. The tree of life is made out of branches that are all human beings. And in the background, dinosaurs frolic under a vast golden sun. In the middle panel, you see these archetypal parents of Adam and Eve looking down on what's happened on the creation of life. And you have again the primordial swamp out of which evolve fantastical creatures that swarm round and round. Again, I've invented all kinds of real and mythical beings, as well as dinosaurs and extinct beings that are part of the story of our life on this planet. In the right-hand panel, you see again an image of hell, but here I've interpreted hell. The origin of hell is in the breakdown in communication between two people. And as it progresses, differences and disconnects between two people end up in different kinds of conflict. Conflict, when it goes to its bitterest limit, turns out to be aggressive and vicious and ends in hell. As often said, that hell is other people. Again here there's references to the same sort of things as in the first version, where you have global terror, the threat of nuclear war, and other elements that show that hell is not something that we've stepped away from. It's still there, and it's a very, very contemporary threat. With these works, I've tried to create a very, very contemporary image of our world, showing how it connects so deeply with art of an earlier age.